US President Barack Obama faces a tough challenge for the remaining 2 years of his first term in the White House after a vote of backlash against the Democrats in midterm elections that saw the Republicans win control of the House of Representatives and fail narrowly to take control of the Senate as well. With the American economy struggling and unemployment still close to 10%, today's vote reflects anger and frustration that the Obama administration, elected on a wave of hope and optimism, had failed to turn the economic tide. With power in the Congress now split, Barack Obama faces a legislative gridlock as he continues to grapple with an unpopular war in Afghanistan and huge economic headaches at home. To analyse the results, I spoke late today with Professor James Fallows, Chair in US Media at the United States Study Centre and the Washington correspondent for the Atlantic Monthly. He was in our Washington studio. James Fallows, what is the significance of this result? What sort of Congress will Barack Obama now have to deal with?
The things he got through in his first 2 years, the National Health Care Plan, financial reform and things like that, he did with tremendous difficulty despite his party controlling both houses of the U.S. Congress. Now with the Republicans having a quite large, it appears, majority in the House of Representatives, the Democrats apparently still controlling the Senate, it's going to be even more difficult.
So with neither side controlling the Congress, isn't that going to mean legislative paralysis?
It means essentially that the Republicans will be able to achieve very little of a rollback agenda that many of them promised when running. For example, some of the most outspoken Tea Party candidates were saying they had to roll back the health reform plan, they had to deal with some of the financial reforms that the administration had gotten through. That really will not be possible for them, with the Democrats still controlling the Senate and Obama still in the White House.
Given the state of the economy and the policy challenges President Obama faces, it would seem this is the worst possible outcome.
Yes. If you wanted to take the sort of dark perspective on this, you could say that, as you just have, that there are real, serious, major challenges for the U.S. in the long run that it needs to address, of how to change its energy policy in the long run, how to deal with its financial future, its educational system. It's going to be very hard to do that. The brighter, if you will, perspective will be this is not a unique situation for American presidents to be in. Bill Clinton, who was, of course, reelected to a second term, was in this predicament after the 1994 midterms, 2 years into his office. Ronald Reagan was also in a situation like this 2 years into his term. Unemployment was even worse in 1982 than it is now, and there was a similar rebuke from the electorate. So this, for better or worse, is often the predicament of American presidents.
To what extent was this reflecting a failure of policy by the Obama administration, or did the president simply raise hopes and expectations beyond what he could possibly deliver?
I think it probably is a combination of those things, and for any newly elected president, almost by definition, there is an elevation of hopes. But I think that the major iron law in American politics is, as goes the unemployment rate, so goes almost everything else, including the popularity and strength of the incumbent party. And because the recovery from the world financial crisis has been slower than the Democrats would have liked or anybody would have liked, the discontent arising from that and the hangover of the housing crisis here in the U.S., the housing price crisis, has made it very hard for Democrats.
Who will be the key players to shape the politics of the next 2 years?
Well, certainly the man with new prominence for the Republican Party is going to be John Boehner. He's going to be the Speaker of the House of Representatives and the Republican man of highest office in the land. So he will be somebody the president needs to negotiate with.
To what extent was this a Tea Party victory as opposed to a Republican victory, or was it the election the Democrats lost?
If, as now seems almost certain, the Democrats retain hold of the Senate, that can be seen as a defeat by the Tea Party, a sort of self-inflicted wound on the Republicans, because they managed in the Republican primaries to nominate some fairly extreme candidates, the most famous of whom is this Christine O'Donnell in Delaware, the one who had to run an ad saying that she was not, in fact, a witch, and made it. Those were seats that probably a more moderate Republican would have been able to win.
How cohesive a force are the Republicans likely to be in the new Congress?
The Republicans have been unified during this past 2 years of minority status by being a bloc and almost faultlessly bloc opposition to Democratic Party proposals. They have almost on all matters voted entirely down the line in both houses of the Congress. But now they're a much more disparate group. And many of the Tea Party candidates who've been elected did so by running against Washington, Republican and Democratic alike. So suddenly John Boehner, who is very much of a kind of insider figure in Washington, will have a constituency that includes a lot of people who ran against him. And as the House of Representatives, the lower house, has a majority of Republicans from a very wide range of backgrounds, trying to wrangle them will be the famous herding cats exercise for Mr. Boehner.
So this is the end of any action on climate change for the next 2 years?
Even when the Democrats held both houses of Congress, the president believed that he could not get a full climate bill through both houses with bloc unified Republican opposition. So it is a dead certainty that there will be no progress legislatively on this for the next 2 years.
What are the odds that Barack Obama can now do what Bill Clinton did to Newt Gingrich's Republicans in the '96 election and turn the tables in the presidential election in 2 years' time?
I think that Barack Obama remains today what he has been for the last 2 years, which is the likely stronger candidate for re-election 2 years from now, partly because the Republicans are short of a very promising alternative to him, as the Republicans were against Bill Clinton when they had Bob Dole, who was not a very appealing candidate. Also, the Republicans are now in the awkward situation of having, it's the old joke about you catch the tiger and then what do you do with it? They now are going to be in control of one of the houses of Congress, and all of these problems they have been able to blame on the Democrats of high unemployment rates, of all sorts of chronic economic problems. They now share responsibility for trying to solve. Bill Clinton was able very deftly to turn this to the Democrats' advantage and the Republicans' disadvantage 12 years ago when he was in this situation, or whenever it was, in 1994 after those elections, I guess 16 years ago. So this is Barack Obama will probably study what Bill Clinton did, and I think you'd have to say he has a good chance, at least for his own re-election prospects, as of now.
James Fallows, thanks for talking with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.